Good morning, everyone, once again. I'm really thrilled to have such a large company today, so many young people engaged with this discussion, with distinguished guests, Well, why we are here? Let's clarify a bit. So our school has that rare opportunity to participate in a project together with Vilnius University, and this project is granted by US Embassy. And one more thing, as the title of the project suggests, it of course will help us to know more, or let's say familiarize us with more strategies, how to deal with our disinformation, how to identify it, maybe even employ our critical thinking and many more things, that are really important. Because as the saying goes, I found one quote, the only thing anyone can really know for sure today is that you can't really know anything for sure. So if you're lucky, you can get half the truth. But we are double lucky today because we have experts to help us and guide through this complexity of the issue. Let me introduce the brains behind the project. So this is Dr. Adam Mastandria. Hello.
Hello.
And Dr. Lyudmila Tsimavichina. Hello. We're so privileged to have you here. Well, I will give the floor to you. I want you to tell maybe more and, of course, navigate the discussion. Just one note to my students, please take notes while listening, because later, as far as I know, we'll have at least short time for roundtable discussion. You may ask some questions, to find out more things there. So that's it. Zip from me, and the floor is yours, dear Adam and Lyudmila.
We are here today to get inspired by your presence and also share with you some of the ideas. And before I share my screen, I would like to tell you that we're not planning to give you a theoretical lecture about some ideas or concept that we are going to test together. So our main goal of today's meeting is to come up with a team, so we'll discuss that later, who we will work later, more specifically on the content and on the method. So today it's more an introductory workshop just to get you an insight into our project and also our main goals and the procedure, how we're going to handle this project together with you, just to give you an insight and also have a discussion with you, definitely. But then, okay. So
one moment. I just want to clarify that we are, if we talk about teams, so then only 9th graders are in mind, into consideration. So 10th graders are here for some ideas as far as I know. So you are welcome to ask questions and to find out information there. Yeah, so thank you.
At the same time, if 10th graders want to join us, just getting more ideas for their own projects when we work in teams, they also much appreciated and invited to join us. We wouldn't mind this, I think. Adam, what do you think?
Yeah, so maybe those who are 10th graders and listeners, you may write in the chat later if you wish to have such a workshop later and work together and join 9th graders. That would be perfect. Super.
Okay, so as a scholar at university, so I'm also interested in how it's called the discipline of discourse analysis, when we analyze language and context in which this language is used and get insight into political, social ideas that are around us, cultural ideas. And we're going to share this method with you and hope you will be inspired and also provide us with some interesting results. Okay, so I'm ready to share my screen so that we have some things to do. So just it will be easier for you to follow what we are planning to do together today. So, okay. Okay, so Adam, let's start with just introducing the project overall. Yes, Adam, please.
Okay, so this is the title of our project. It's kind of a mouthful. New methodological approaches to teaching about disinformation discourses in Lithuanian high schools and universities. So you guys are participating in the high school part of the project. So
yeah, and Vitaly is supervising high school part, while I'm also supervising university part. And besides you, there are also graduate students and undergraduate students also working on their own projects. So we have a variety of projects So that's kind of a very big team of presenters for this activity. Okay, so we expect and hope that this methodology that we offer to you, you can use it for different contexts, not necessarily disinformation. Okay, so are we done here, Adam? Should I proceed?
Yeah, well, maybe let's just say that it's our project is sponsored by the U.S. Embassy here in Vilnius. So we received a grant from the embassy, and also sponsored by the Vilnius University Faculty of Philology. So it's Vilnius University and the U.S. Embassy working together, and then because the U.S. Embassy is very interested in working with high school students. They have a couple different projects where they do that. So that's their main goal, is to reach out to Lithuanian high school students and to teach them about American culture and English. And of course, disinformation is a really important topic for the U.S. Embassy, as well as for people in Lithuania as well. So
that's a very good point. And regarding other projects, Adam is also, I think, also heading this discussion club for high school students. And so from different, where they're also discussing these issues, I think can also send an invitation to you if you want to join it. It's a weekly meeting.
Mondays at 3 o'clock, no, Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Yeah, you can check out the U.S. Embassy Vilnius website, and I believe the invitation is posted there, or I can also send it to Vitalia as well, and she can send it to you guys.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so Adam, let's move on to what is the aim of this project?
Okay. Does anybody have any questions so far before we continue? Is everybody doing okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, so let's first of all talk a little bit about our project aim, what we're trying to do with this project. First of all, we're trying to raise critical awareness about disinformation discourses. Okay, so critical awareness means, first of all, not just to know what disinformation is or be aware that it exists, because probably everybody is aware of disinformation, fake news, conspiracy theories, but to actually be able to pick it apart, to be critical, to know where the source is, the ideology, where it's coming from, that's kind of what we're looking for, to be critical, to have a deeper awareness of these disinformation discourses. So some of the project aims, first of all, are to do educational workshops like this one we're doing right now with high school students, university students, graduate students. And then another huge piece is our YouTube channel, which will have lectures, information from the project members like Ludmila and I, as well as student projects. And I think actually the student projects are going to be the most interesting, because then other students can watch those, teachers can watch those, they can use them in their classrooms in order to teach English, to teach language, using this topic of disinformation discourses. So the idea is to produce teaching materials that mostly will be posted on the YouTube channel, but also other teaching materials, print materials that we'll be giving to teachers and to students, so that they can use these things in their classrooms to talk about disinformation, but also to learn English using this kind of interesting topic. Well, we hope it's interesting for you guys anyway. And then at the end, we are having a symposium in October. Is that when the symposium?
October 21, 22.
Yeah, well, it's going to be online because due to the pandemic, it's not going to be on campus. But those are our general aims, to have these workshops, to work face-to-face with groups of students, and then to post your work on YouTube, and to have this kind of interesting YouTube channel that teachers and students can use in their classroom. And that's what we're asking you guys to be a part of. Okay.
Okay, yes, I would like to add a few things to that. So today we're here at this educational workshop, which is a little bit more of introductory nature. So we will just so the aims are to introduce you, to tell us a little bit about our project, also to think of teams that will collaborate with us further on. and also to have a discussion together about disinformation and other topics. And also, I would like to mention you that the symposium that will be organized in September, October 21, 22, but we'll let you know about this later. So students and with their teachers who worked on the project will be invited to take part in the symposium and also to give some insights about how they actually worked on the project. And this is another very interactive part. So it will be an international symposium, and the topic of the symposium is different education at school and university and how it is progressing. So, and during the symposium, Adam will be heading this workshop that is dedicated to our project, and students, their projects and their teacher will be invited to the symposium as well. So it's a long-term project, not very long-term, but it ends in October. But there are a lot of interactive activities we're going to be involved in and spend time together. And okay, that I would say that is it. So today we're just introducing you to the project, and in further stages we'll have more, we'll focus more on deeper content and ideas and methodologies that we discuss a bit later. So yes, that would be from my part. Anything else to add, Adam, here?
No, I think that sounds good. So today we'll be doing the introduction of the project, not too in-depth. We'll be answering any questions that you guys have. We'll be creating some teams for you guys to do your own projects, and then we'll have some discussion time at the end to just kind of hear some of your ideas and get some feedback.
Okay. Anything to ask, or maybe we have questions at the end when we cover all the points. But at this point, any questions, any queries from you guys?
Will there be any certificates at the end for those who would participate? No, for sure.
Oh yeah, the teachers jumping up to the front. We had them. We kept them for the later time. But yes, we'll mention them. That's a good point. Certificates definitely matter because that's your huge contribution. And certificates that we will mention later, they will be granted by U.S. Embassy and Vilnius University as a co-joint certificate, which kind of you can use it for your CV and also when you apply for universities, and which are very much appreciated. That's definitely so. We just talk of them a bit later, but that's a good question. Good point. Thank you, Vitalia.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Can 10th graders participate in this project too?
Oh, Adam, sure. I mean, it just Vitalia was telling us that the teacher told her, your teacher told her that you're more hesitant about participation, but you're more about just listening. Did we understand this? This is how we understood it, but maybe we got it wrong. So what's your attitude to that participation?
So if there is willingness to, be a part of this project from 10th graders, I would be more than happy. So just write in the chat if you are, eager to be in these workshops and have the same and participate in that project together with your teacher.
We are going to do some team building a bit later, so you can listen to us, get some data, get an idea, and then definitely offer their their candidates to participate. We'll be very happy to have 10th graders as well.
Yeah, very good. Good
Adam,
to know.
Anything to add on that? 10th graders?
Yeah, we love 10th graders. Anybody who wants to participate, we're happy to have you guys be involved. And it doesn't take, it might sound like a lot of work, but we're going to structure it so that it's not gonna, it's not gonna take up too much of your time. And pretty much it's going to be this meeting. We'll have another methodology meeting, and then we'll set you free to start working on these projects and to create your YouTube videos to submit to the channel. So I think it would be pretty easy for you to participate, and it's a good kind of extracurricular activity to do with with some friends or with a group of people that you enjoy working with.
Okay, good. So actually we can we see this so during our today's meeting we wanted to tell you that you'll have to be those who are interested in project activities. So definitely they will team up and you'll have to collaborate together. And we definitely promise you that during this teamwork, you will gain new skills and you will actually learn of how to practically use and apply a research methodology. which I think might be very useful for you in terms that I know that in schools now you have to work on projects in grade 10 and 11, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong. Do you have this project activity which is mandatory for you and you get credits for it at school?
I'm not that sure. Maybe students would tell more, those who are in gymnasium classes. So do you have an extra credit for participation in projects?
I think they have to prepare their own projects and also present them at school level. So, I mean, this project of you will definitely get you an idea what kind of project you can work on later. Okay.
The closest thing I'm aware of, I apologize for cutting you off. The closest thing we had to something like this was last year we had a STEAM project where we take one, for example, lesson or theme, for example, music, math, literature, arts, and we structure a whole, I guess, work, thesis, hypothesis, testing, all of that, just as a kind of practice, but as well for extra credits, grades, and stuff like that. It was mandatory.
Great, great. Thank you. So I think we're going to practice this model here. And now before we team up and think of our teams, let's have a discussion, Adam. Let's hold a discussion together.
Okay, let's discuss. So we have 4 questions here, kind of structuring questions, just for a short discussion, just to test your knowledge and to see what you as students know in general about disinformation, and just to get some of your opinions. So feel free to just chime in. It's okay, because we're online. Sometimes we can cut each other off, or 5 people are trying to talk at once. So we'll try to do our best to speak in order. But it's okay if you have something to say. Just say it. So first of all, let's go with, what is disinformation? When you think of disinformation, this word, what comes to mind? Looks like somebody raised their hand.
Yeah, I raised hand. So I think in my own eyes, the disinformation is a tool in modern politics where someone spreads false information that is usually harmful to someone or something. For example, in modern times, as the U.S. elections were going on, there was false information being spread left and right. With the new vaccines from coronavirus, there's information that the vaccines kill and so on. And this information isn't always on the political level. It can sometimes be in a personal level, like in school or in private lives. So in my eyes, disinformation is information that isn't true.
That's a very good point. I really like this idea about, this kind of political engagement or questioning status quo in politics right now, but coming from this ordinary citizens. That's a very good point. Thank you. Any other ideas?
I also like the idea of how you make the distinction between intention and unintention. So it could be, disinformation can be intentional, something that people do on purpose, but it could also be unintentional. There's no, that it's not actually coming from like a government source, for example, but it's just, people spreading rumors, for example. Good.
Yeah, we also talk in terms of methodology, we talk about 2 kinds of engagement, especially on social media, in terms of disinformation, passive and active. So passive is less intentional, where you just respond to some tweets or Facebook posts or memes, and active engagement when you do that intentionally. That's a good point. Okay, any other ideas about disinformation?
Yeah, what is disinformation?
I fully agree with Raigardas. I apologize, someone was speaking before me.
It's okay.
It's okay, go on.
Sometimes people spread disinformation because they were told something that was untrue and they believed it was true, and then they spread it not on purpose, not knowing that they're...
That's an amazing idea about that actually the real danger of disinformation is that it's becoming a part of our belief system. And that's why it's so difficult to change those beliefs and to question them. And usually when you talk to people who kind of intentionally spread disinformation, they cannot even, they never change. They say no, they're not even listening to you. So that's a very good point, that disinformation is a kind of a belief system. It's something that is not easily changed. That's a very good point. Thank you.
I'm really sorry. I'm not sure whether there was by accident, but there was like Ludmila, you want to share something, and there was like oh, now it's good. Yeah, so that's better. Good. Thank you so much.
Sorry for that. Yes, I just wanted to see whether there are any hands raised. Okay, someone else wanted to comment on.
Yeah. At some point, I can say that disinformation, it's one of like a tools to rule people. Like the most of propaganda is disinformation, so it's kind of a useful thing at some points if you want to keep your ruling. Just
okay, that's actually a very good point. So that usually many people who get engaged in disinformation, they blame government or people who are in power for somehow oppressing them or distorting their reality. We also recognize that in disinformation narrative. That's a very good point. And it doesn't mean that it's not happening, but people usually think that somehow the powerful or a group of the powerful people are somehow trying to manipulate them or oppress them. That's also a good point. And that is also indicates one of the reasons why people get exposed to that. Some people get exposed to disinformation easier than the rest. And usually those people belong or represent minority groups, for example, because during their lifetime, they feel somehow oppressed or mistreated. And then they the exposure to disinformation for them comes easier, and they somehow get exposed to that with more ease than those people who are in the majority. That's also a good point. I love this. Okay, Adam, anything else to add here, or should we proceed, go to the next question?
Can I quickly add
sorry, please do.
Along with political power, like disinformation to gain some sort of status, more power, more control, there can be different types of disinformation, usually religious disinformation, for example, conflicting religious beliefs, misinterpreting some kind of natural phenomenon as some kind of sign. At the same time, disinformation can be manipulated or incomplete. For example, if I say bananas cause cancer, and I say it's because they have a higher potassium level than any other fruit that makes them more radioactive. Technically, I am correct, but I don't tell you the whole story. That everything causes cancer. Smoking causes cancer. Secondhand smoking causes cancer. Everything can cause cancer with enough dosages or enough time exposure. So I am correct, but technically it is disinformation. The same time, hydroxychloroquine, one of the medicines Donald Trump was propagating to quote-unquote cure COVID, and he himself was taking. Yes, it could be taken to prevent some measures against malaria, but mainly in fish. Mainly in fish, yes, it's sometimes used in humans, but more in rare situations. So one is right, one is wrong, and disinformation still.
Absolutely. That's a very good point. Adam, do you want to comment on this
Yeah, on this point. Yeah, no, for sure. So what you're saying is that maybe in disinformation there is sometimes a kernel of truth, but and maybe that is kind of what what leads people to believe it, because it has to be something that is believable, right? If it's totally out there. I mean, I guess there are some conspiracy theories that are totally, fantastical, and it's kind of hard to believe that anybody would believe that they're true because they're so, disassociated from reality. But in general, I think what you're saying is that there's a possibility that it could be true that attracts people to it. Is that kind of similar to what you're saying?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then this element of truth, or this kernel of truth, is taken as the main basis, as the central focus of developing this kind of reasoning line of that disinformation model. and it sounds very logical. And also another feature of disinformation narrative, as we call it, is that the way events or some phenomena is presented, it kind of presented as a interconnected consequence of events or features, and it's like the whole matrix of things that are interconnected. Though we all know from natural sciences that there is less connection as we can imagine, and there is more. There are other things that also are in play. So there are certain elements that are taken as a focus and then made prominent in that narrative, and people definitely tend to get engaged into that, and they see it as some sort of reality and they respond to it. That's a good point. I also liked your religious example, this reference to that. And one of the features of disinformation that we observed while analyzing examples of disinformation is definitely this is semantic macro feature of distrust. You have to create distrust, and more specifically in science and in religious narratives, or that you gave as an example of disinformation, how they present something, they definitely put this emphasis on distrusting science, because they say that it's limited in scope and so on. And then this is another kind of threat, as we see, of disinformation discourses, that creating this high level of distrust, especially in science, which is not good for society on the long term. That's a good point. Thank you so much. Okay, should we move on to our next question, Adam?
Yes, let's move on to why is it important to recognize disinformation? So why is it important to be able to know, to tell what's true from what's false or what's being manipulated? Would anybody like to weigh in on this?
Yeah. So I think of it like this. Why did the West win the Cold War? For example, the Cold War was basically the information era. It was defined as that. Every single information that someone could get was really important, especially in the war. So why did the West win? The point is they recognized this information that was sent from the USSR. The USSR there were a few moments where they tried to trick the US by sending disinformation to spies, which were later caught. And when they recognized that was disinformation, they saved their the manpower, to do other things. Now, in modern eras, especially, as I said, political and so on, disinformation is really important because it can hurt someone's public image really badly, and it is really important to recognize it so that everyone has an equal status, and everyone isn't shamed for something that isn't actually happening. And sometimes even wars can happen, or arguments where someone says something that isn't true and the other tries to defend it. So I think that's why we should recognize this information where it is, and I think we should invest time into finding out how to recognize it. So.
Okay, very interesting. Yeah, so you're talking about as a way to prevent conflict, disinformation needs to be recognized, so that so it prevents even governments from fighting with each other or starting wars or starting conflicts where there really isn't any need to do that. Interesting.
I like this point a lot, especially in political narratives and discourse. Many nations, for example, now we think about the pandemic and COVID-19. One of the strategies that we can see and trace is actually undertaken by a few governments is to shift attention from the pandemic and vaccination to another kind of disinformation, like having an external enemy, another country, and then focus on that and talking how bad this country is or how it's damaging us and so on. And this is what politicians can actually do. And this is done to shift attention of the people from other more important issues. This is a kind of a manipulative strategy. I would agree with that, especially in politics. And if it's recognized, so people are not that easily, so to say, manipulated by certain political forces, or so to say. And especially this is due we talked about the Cold Era, but also I read some analysis of Cold Era analysts, political analysts, who argued that in disinformation discourse, it's essential to have an enemy, an external enemy, and this enemy is always clearly identified in that narrative and blamed for all the bad things. And I've also read about this Cold Era conflict between USSR and United States, that actually this external enemy narrative that was used at that time by both countries helped them not to go into actually physical war or nuclear war even. It kind of created this kind of balance between, so that's another paradox of a disinformation narrative, which is a counterfactual to what we are trying to find out now. But at the same time, I would argue that definitely disinformation discourses contribute to physical violence because they create more divide between social groups, between countries, and they create definitely more violence. I would completely agree with that. And we could see that with many examples that we will try to analyze together. Yes, that would be my comment. So
here is also Vytautas raising his hand first, and then Vakaris, I see.
Vytautas,
go on.
Yeah. So why it's important to recognize the disinformation? Because it obviously makes lives easier, because disinformation causes a lot of problems, for example, anti-vaxxers. And because of that, and disinformation, people don't believe that drugs work or vaccine, and because of that, a few diseases that were officially pointed as dead were like resurrected, and some people started to get sick by them again, and most of the people started to don't trust anyone and think that they are the smartest, and it simply breaks some of the it's kind of make it worse to contact with them, because it's obviously impossible to say that, to prove to them that they are wrong, because all of your arguments will get like, no, it's lie, and they don't, and because of that, the more people become stupider, it is easier to control them, and because of that, our life is gonna be, it's going to get harder, because the people are because the government will control us stricter because of disinformation, and you will obviously don't have a right to say your opinion, because of this information, you will be shown as a enemy of the people.
Wow, that's a very good point, Adam. This kind of censorship disinformation can lead to. What do you think?
I like it. Yeah, very good. Let's go to the next student who has their hand raised. Who is it there?
recordings, like a second step. So now don't think about the videos yet. So you'll just focus on the project, on the activity itself. And then we'll meet one more time to discuss your video recordings, 1 more hour or 2. And then we're ready for your recordings and accept them. And for the video recordings also we'll need this, yes, Vitalia, parents' consent. So that because that is an idea of this project, students' project will be uploaded on YouTube. Okay. So
and of course, since you have some time for waiting until we, arrange everything, you may go to YouTube channel already and find out more about this project. Okay, there are 3 videos already uploaded. Super. Thank you for making your time here today. Oh, I know, I'm really excited, so happy. Both from that I could hear professionals coming here and as well as students having such a nice discussion together. I hope this is kind of wonderful beginning for something more that will be also promising and something for us to spark curiosity.